Good morning. Welcome to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. It is great to be with you. I just got back from a little more than a week off, spending some time back in the Midwest. I'm going to talk to you about fall foliage and what we experienced as I drove back from St. Louis. I was in visiting my firstborn grandson, so super excited to spend some time with him and with the whole family, my wife and I. Hearts melted. First grandson on both sides of the family, so just a lot of fun. Right now, though, what we're going to talk about today's top weather headlines. Let's get into some of the topics we will be discussing on today's edition of the Weather Desk. We're going to be watching for Melissa. Now, this is interesting. We've been watching an area for a while. It's been looking more and more impressive. And as of the latest satellite images, this thing pretty much already looks like a tropical system. Hurricane Center now has basically a 100% chance that this thing will become Melissa. So we're expecting that. We have an update on Alaskan evacuations due to a tropical system that produced some flooding on the western coast of Alaska. We'll talk about what's going on there, show you what the fate was for some dogs that had to be evacuated, and we'll give you some good news and update on that. As we take a look, in addition, there was a tornado, a deadly tornado that struck a town about 30 minutes to the north of Paris. So we'll talk about that. I've got your fall foliage update. Where's the color? I drove through the Blue Ridge expecting to see brilliant color, and there was some, but it wasn't quite to the level I thought it was going to be. We'll show you where the colors are really coming in now and when they're going to start coming in over the next week or so. So we've got that update for you. And we've got an update on the Orionid meteor shower. Really was going last night, but it's peaking right now. I'll have some more information on that, as well as the week ahead. So some interesting weather coming to the East Coast. It was pretty cool yesterday. We're actually going to warm up a little bit today, but then cool back down. Well, you know, we've got about a month of the hurricane season left, and we're keeping an eye to things. Right now, the Gulf is quiet. Here on the East Coast, things are pretty quiet as well. But it's down here in the Caribbean that we are watching this area that should become Melissa, I think, probably later today. Right now, the Hurricane Center believes this has about a 100% chance of becoming our next tropical system, and likely it may jump right over from depression straight to tropical storm. So we'll take a look at this. Again, you can see what's going on here. A lot of convection. It is a well-balanced, very concentric system here. It's not, you know, sometimes you have one side that's exposed, or the center of low pressure is here and all the convection's on the east side or something like that. Not in this case. This is a very healthy area of convection. You're even getting a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of venting out. Maybe you can see just a little bit of that aloft. So the winds are pretty light. It's not encountering much shear, and it is very, very likely to become Melissa, maybe with the 11 o'clock update here in the next couple of hours. We'll see. Right now, still an area of investigation, and you can see how the models aren't really sure what exactly to do with it. Eventually, most of the models do turn it back to the northeast. And as we get into the big picture with our weather here across the United States, there's a cold front that is coming through. It's going to come through the East Coast and through Hampton Roads area later tonight. It's going to set up offshore. Then there's another reinforcing shot of cold air that will come in midway through next week, maybe say Thursday of next week leading up to Halloween, another shot of cooler air. These will eventually, in all likelihood, unless this thing really undercuts it and stays farther to the south, these things would take anything that develops and eventually carry it off to the northeast. But folks in Hispaniola, we're talking about Haiti and the Dominican Republic, folks in Cuba, down around Jamaica, they need to pay very close attention to what is now this area of investigation, soon to become Melissa, as this thing will likely move along. We're going to show you a couple of models here. We'll take a look and show you how the various models kind of indicate this thing is going to develop. First of all, the European model, and you can see, brings it along, intensifies it, kind of drags it here very close to Jamaica, then kind of stalls it out, doesn't really know what to do with it. Eventually, it picks it up as a stronger system, a hurricane, moves it over Cuba. That would be a really tough blow there, then through the central Bahamas, and eventually kind of lifting it off to the northeast. Again, we've got another frontal boundary that'll come here. I'm not real worried about Melissa directly slamming into Hampton Roads, not on the thinking with the European here. I can also show you the American model. This is the GFS that we'll take a look at here. And the GFS, again, takes this thing and just kind of moves it along and then really ramps it up. Only the GFS takes it back over the Dominican Republic, just to the east of the Turks and Caicos, and then really ramps it up. There's Bermuda, carries it off and away with that next storm system kind of coming through. So the U.S. model gets this thing out of here and carries it away. The Euro kind of brings it across Cuba up through the Bahamas. Again, a couple other outliers keep it a little farther to the south. It's really hard to say exactly what's going to happen because it depends, how tall this thing gets, where the steering currents pick it up. But in all likelihood, with a couple of strong fronts coming through, eventually, if it develops, if it doesn't get sheared apart, or if it doesn't stay weaker and kind of undercut those fronts coming through, eventually, I would think something would likely pick it up. Of course, we'll keep you updated, and we're going to be monitoring that very, very closely. You take a look at our historical kind of development curve here, and we talk about the peak of the hurricane season coming September 10. But here we are right now coming through the third week of October, and there's really not that much left of the hurricane season. They can and still do develop. You can see some of the activity. And again, this was from 1944 to 2020, all of the development during these months as well. And occasionally you get some beyond the end of the hurricane season. But really, the activity starts to die down. And what I tell folks here, in my years of working in the mid-Atlantic, in Norfolk, Virginia, Virginia Beach, the northeast part of North Carolina, once we get into the end of October, we start getting more frequent storm systems coming through, like what we're going to get tonight, this passing front. Another push of cooler air coming in next week. And those typically start to protect more of the East Coast from tropical systems. Now, about a week and a half ago, we dealt with a nor'easter, and we're going to come in to the cooler months and we get those nor'easters, and they can do a number on it. So we never drop our guard, but the hurricane season really doesn't have a tremendous amount of time left. We've clearly passed the peak, but still we're going to be watching for what should become Melissa later today. Again, that is the next name on the storm. Will it become Melissa today? Most likely, yes. After Melissa, Nestor is the next name on the list. So that's what's happening here in the Atlantic. We don't only check the Atlantic. We also look at what's going on in the Pacific, and the Eastern Pacific for a while was really active. I'll show you one area we're watching here with a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. Not much of a threat to the Mexican coastline, but we do keep an eye to that. And we will continue to watch this. Now, for the latest on the tropics, I really encourage you to tune in to Hurricane Hub Live. You can watch it right here on 13 News Now Plus. Every night at 8 o'clock, our team of meteorologists will take an even closer look at what's happening in both the Atlantic and the Pacific. It's something you definitely want to check out. So we turn our attention now from the southern part of the eastern Pacific here along the Mexican coast. You can see most of the U.S. coast here in the West Coast in pretty good shape. But once you get up here to Alaska, there is a weather story that we're following, and specifically it involves a small community here, Kipnuk. All right, you may not have ever heard of this, but we want to talk about this. The U.S. Coast Guard and Alaska National Guard have finished mass evacuation after the remnants of a typhoon slammed the state's west coast. More than 2,000 people were displaced after extreme winds and storm surge swept away homes and placed entire communities underwater. A pair of isolated coastal villages were the hardest hit. Again, that includes Kipnuk, where 90% of the village was destroyed. Bethel Friends of Canines, a nonprofit animal rescue, saved more than 70 dogs from Kipnuk since the flooding began. With the help of several airlines, the group chartered planes to fly the dogs about 85 miles to safety. This video shows some of the dogs reuniting with their owners. Now, as for when they'll all be able to return home, the governor of Alaska says it could be 18 months from now. The governor says he's asked the White House for federal help. Good to see those reunions. All right, we're going to turn our attention from Alaska over to France. And you see Paris here, but I really want to zoom in to a little town north of Paris, about 30 miles up. That's Urmont. And in that town last night, again, we have video to show you the aftermath of a twister that came through. Unfortunately, there was at least one person that died in the storm. We're told 9 others are in the hospital and 5 of them in critical condition. This morning, nearly 2,000 homes in that region are still without power. You don't get a lot of tornadoes, but you can see they can, and again, very hard hit there just north of Paris. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have an update on the fall foliage, and you'll want to turn your attention to the sky tonight. The Orionid meteor shower, it's peaking right now this week. When to keep your eye to the sky and what's behind this, it's coming up. Welcome back. All right, we're going to take a look at the fall foliage, talk about the meteor shower. Let's start with the foliage and the Northeast. It's already past peak. Some northern parts of Vermont and New Hampshire, up into Maine, parts of upstate New York. Much of the color, though, very high. It's beautiful across much of Pennsylvania and New York, back up into Massachusetts. This is the peeping season up that way. Connecticut looking at a lot of color, back down through New Jersey. We're going to come back to Hampton Roads here in just a moment. I did want to mention, so last week I spent a week out in Missouri here and around St. Louis and areas out to the west of St. Louis. A lot of color coming in. We saw some colors. We traveled 64 back across southern Illinois, Indiana, through Kentucky. You can see some pops of color. So I would say a moderate color about right for these areas in here. I was a little disappointed, honestly, coming through West Virginia. Color was moderate, maybe high in some spots, but as far as some of the real vibrant colors, it seems like it's maybe delayed a few days. The color's still coming in. And again, for Hampton Roads, we're just starting to see a little bit. If you had travel plans out to the west, It's already really past peak or peaking now back up over the mountains and into portions of Utah. It looks like the Wasatch Range pretty much peaked to past peak, and we're seeing past peak across the northern tier. Now, as for our area, again, in the Charlottesville area, I talked to one of our producers, Sarah Calloway, who said the same thing. She's like, you know, I was up in Charlottesville this weekend. I really thought I'd see a little bit more. There is some color across the Blue Ridge. It's just not in the way you would expect to see it yet. So I would say there's moderate color, maybe low to moderate color across the Piedmont and back over the Blue Ridge. Some of those beautiful scenic views that you're driving 64 just over Afton Mountain there, not too far from Charlottesville along Skyline Drive. You know, you've got those beautiful views, and as we were driving by looking over, it wasn't like the hillsides were on fire with fall foliage in the color, you know what I mean. All right, it was just starting to come in. So I am hopeful this upcoming weekend we should get even more color. This is the update, you know, and again, this has been as of a few days here. This needs to be updated. The date on that is actually more recent, just within the week. But we'll be getting more updates coming in, and I would suspect that over the next week or so, we'll see the color really coming in and peaking over the next probably week and a half to 2 weeks. So this is your time to check it out. Low color for Hampton Roads down into northeast North Carolina, little to no color for eastern North Carolina. It takes a while to get here, but we're closing out October, and this is the time when we'll start to see that color really come in. So you definitely want to check it out. We have a live picture from the Shenandoah National Park. This is from Big Meadows, the Big Meadows camera. Hang in there. It does cycle around, so we'll get some different looks here as it automatically updates. This is a live foliage cam, and again, it looks like it's zoomed in on one tree there. There you go. You can see, again, a little bit of color, but there's still a lot of green in some of those trees. This speaks to what I was just, you know, really, it shows you what I was just talking about with the colors starting to come in, but it's not as vibrant as you might expect or what we typically see. So I do anticipate more. Notice some of the greens, and there is some reddening and some browning of some of the leaves there. But as far as some of the bright yellows and oranges, really hasn't fully come in yet. So I would say over the next week to 2 weeks, you definitely want to check it out. So something that we can do here, we can compare that to last year. Look at these pictures that were taken in the park around the same time. So October 2024, we had a lot of brilliant color coming in, and it's just not quite there yet. So hopefully we'll get some more of that color in. And we're actually efforting to talk to people with Virginia Department of Forestry to talk to us a little bit about the foliage and what they're expecting here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for additional upcoming episodes of the Weather Desk. Later this week, we hope to have even more information on our fall colors. All right, this is a little reminder. You want to keep your eye to the sky. Tonight we have the Orionid meteor shower. It is peaking now, really the 20th and the 21st. This is typically the peak. They can linger. You may catch some meteors or shoot at what looks like shooting stars over the next few days, but it's peaking now. Now, the best time to do this is between midnight and 2 a.m. As we go through the overnight, we could see up to about 20 meteors per shower, or per hour rather. So it's peaking now, again, around 20 meteors per hour. And, you know, they can produce a very vibrant fireball. So it's something that you do want to check out. I will say tonight here in Hampton Roads, we do anticipate partly cloudy skies. So while we have full sunshine now, we had beautiful conditions, clear skies overnight. You maybe caught a few of those meteors flying through. But, you know, tonight the viewing may be down a little bit if we do get some clouds. Let's get into the forecast. We're going to talk about that right now. So check it out again as we look here nationally. We've got a frontal boundary that is out to the west. This is going to push through and may trigger a few showers later this evening. As far as severe weather goes, very little threat of severe weather. There's one area, if you look at the map, do you see it? Shaded in green, just south of Detroit, Toledo, back over to just west of Cleveland, this area, Sandusky. See down through Bloomdale and Defiance, some of the different areas there. We do have this level 1 threat, and the real only impacts here doesn't look like a hail maker, certainly not a great threat of tornadoes, but gusty winds would be the primary threat. So we'll monitor that section of Ohio and southern parts of Michigan there. Just a level 1 threat. As we look down to the south, few showers and storms with some heavier rain down across Louisiana and into Mississippi. Generally speaking, this area of low pressure is going to track along through the Great Lakes region. There's a frontal boundary that will eventually push through our area, giving us a slight chance for a shower overnight. Cooler and breezy conditions come in as that low spins up there around Toronto. Cooler air comes in. I don't think the folks up in Toronto will mind a little stormy weather. Not with their Blue Jays facing the Dodgers in the World Series. That's going to be fun to watch, but they're going to deal with some unsettled weather up there, Toronto over towards Quebec. You can see for much of the eastern U.S., things will be quieter as we get into Thursday later in the day. Some more unsettled weather back across the central U.S. and maybe some snow starting to show up. Some of the higher elevations there in the Rockies, things looking good out along the West Coast. Now, here in Hampton Roads, our chances for rain pretty slim. It's sunny today, but tonight we do have that low risk of a couple stray showers with a little more cloud cover. It's kind of a bummer given the Orionid meteor shower. That's what we were hoping for, and to see a little bit more of that. But anyway, some clouds, chances for a few stray showers. And as you can see, looking at our futurecast, we are looking at a lot of sunshine. Now, the clouds come in through the overnight. This is at 9 o'clock tonight. And as we head through 11, 12 o'clock, this is where we might pick up a stray sprinkle here or there. Not great chances, nothing heavy. Hopefully some breaks in the clouds, but it does look like there will be that chance overnight. As we go towards sunrise tomorrow, everything clears back out, and then we're going to see the nice conditions into Wednesday and Thursday. So this is what we're looking at. More sunshine, cooler weather on the way. Right now, we've got a lot of sunshine as we take a look live from Town Center in Virginia Beach, looking back towards Mount Trashmore. Full sunshine, just a few very, very high, thin clouds. Lots and lots of sunshine. It's 55 at the airport. The winds are south-southwest now at 7 miles per hour. Out on the water, not bad at all. Not much chop out there. The waves about 1 to 2 feet on the bay and 2 to 3 feet on the ocean. Gusts up to about 25 knots out on the ocean. So a little breezy, but aside from that, things pretty chill. Highs today will reach the lower 70s to mid 70s across the region. Skies mostly sunny today. We're going to see low to mid 70s on the peninsula, the middle peninsula, upper 60s to near 70 at the Outer Banks. 70 there you see for Manio. Back around Elizabeth City, 74, 75 at Hereford and Edenton. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous day. Overnight tonight, 57, partly cloudy. Again, there is that chance of a shower. And if we do get some breaks in the clouds, again, keep an eye to the sky. You might be able to see some of those Orionid meteors. Remember, that came, I forgot to mention this, but the Orionids come from debris from what was the passage of Halley's Comet. Last time it passed, that we had a good look at it was back in 1986. But as the Earth, interacts with some of the debris from that comet that had passed, we actually have these meteors. So really cool to see that. All right, 70, the high tomorrow, sunshine, breezy, pleasant. And as we look out over the next 7 days, the temperatures are going to get cooler and stay much cooler through the weekend. So partly cloudy, 64 the high, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, back into the mid-60s. Want to remind you that we do have always at your fingertips all of our forecast information available. You can scan this QR code and download the 13 News Now mobile app. So it's a great resource. Again, access to our radars. You may need those later tonight with the potential passage of a few showers. Aside from that, there's also traffic information, breaking news. It's all available with the 13 News Now mobile app. And again, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Weather Desk. We do this each and every morning where we talk about not only our local weather impact, but what's happening around the country. We talked fall foliage today, but also international stories like the the tornado north of Paris. So we have producers and we have folks working to gather information. We're going to have maybe a live interview. We're working to get that with the National Forest Service coming up over the next couple of days. So it's really a fun show, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. Tell your friends about it. And remember, there's lots of great additional programming here on 13 News Now Plus, including Hurricane Hub Live. That's each and every weeknight during the tropical storm season and the hurricane season here in the Atlantic through the end of November. Every night at 8 o'clock, you can check out Hurricane Hub Live. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. We'll see you next time right here on the Weather Desk.